Okay, well, anyway, I really wanted to interview you for the podcast. First of all, I haven't done an episode in like forever because
I know. I listen to your podcast.
I know you do. Well, I didn't know what to talk about, and it's been quite a year for me, for you, like for everyone. So I thought
Hmm.
you were a great first guest to come back because I will say, like, out of everyone, of course, we became friends after being clients. So I think maybe I know more of your story than other clients because some other clients like get to a point where they're good and I just don't talk to them ever again because why would they? But
Yeah.
you have kind of, it's just been quite a turn. I wanted you to share your story because you started out on this crazy, like, weird twin flame journey with me and, like, did a lot of healing and did a lot of manifestation. But the one thing I'll say about you that's different than most of my clients is every time spirit told you to do something, for the most part, you did it, even if it was like
I
crazy and
fought
hard.
it, but yeah.
But like you were like push pulled and dragged, but you did the things, and like even when I had you like do mandalas outside, or like you begrudgingly did a lot of shit you didn't want to do, but like
Hmm.
you're kind of living in the end now, even if it doesn't seem perfect every day. Like a lot of what you wanted is now here, right? So I guess I just wanted you
Yeah.
to tell your story about like what that felt like and what you did and what it feels like now, and like
Well, it's crazy because it's 2024 now. It's been almost like 2 years of knowing you.
yeah.
Like we're coming up on the 2 year mark of my life just going to shit.
Oh.
Because that's what like really spurred it on is that everything went south. And then like it was just like you kept popping up on my For You page, like with your tarot readings and stuff. And then I was like, okay, I'll try this. Like I don't really believe in it, but could be fun. Like I'm desperate. Um, and then like that kind of evolved. Like you really guided me, which is funny because like I was very set on like the twin flame path and everything and like wanting to know
Same, same, same. Yeah.
what was going on with him. And then you're like, we're gonna guide you a little bit of a different way. And so like and then that was painful. Um, because it's hard. And what I'm learning now is that not everyone is going to do that level of healing to bring that stuff in because that's all it is healing yourself so that you're ready to receive.
Well, yeah, and even now that you're together, it's not like every day is perfect and everything's easy, right? Like you still are doing the work in a relationship. It's great being with someone you love, but it wasn't the
It's all
answer.
new triggers.
Uh huh.
It's all new triggers. Like, because I'm running into issues that I did not have before, but it seems like it's different because he's physically here with me like 24/7. So like and he gets hit with triggers too, but now we are so close together that we're working together to heal those triggers and figure out what's what. And so that's a little bit of a new thing because I was so used to being so hyper independent and doing it by myself. And
Hmm.
now I don't have to. And that's a whole nother set of, I don't want to say problems because it's not a problem. It's just more of a it's new. It's just new and it takes some adjustment.
Yeah. Okay. So start at the beginning of your story of what kind of had happened.
Oh, girl, I feel like 2022 was so tumultuous that I'm like, I barely remember half of it because I really just remember doing shamanic healings with you and sitting in my apartment just like by myself all the time and just doing shamanic healings with you and tarot readings with you. You were like the only person that was talking to me at that point because like
Oh.
I was no contact with my family. I was no contact with him. Like I didn't have any communication other than myself. Like my entire life imploded. And looking back, because hindsight's 2020, I feel like that was kind of the point was so that I could sit with myself and start to heal those parts of me because like we don't want to deal with that part. Like we don't want to deal with the icky, gross emotional feelings that get lodged and stuck. So we try to push past it and push, 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 and then you hit a wall. And for me, I feel like spirit just kind of imploded everything so that I could sit with myself and kind of start to go on this journey. Because you also inspired, well, you talked me into it and you inspired me to do the shamanic apprenticeship too.
Yeah.
And that was life changing for me too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you did the work. That's the thing is I think this is what's important to point out is because um I talk to clients every day and I'm
Mhm.
channeling. I don't remember what the fuck I said after I said
I
it.
know. I
But
know.
people, not everyone hears it because you're just
Yeah.
sometimes you're not in a place to hear it either. And what's funny about this is like I've been through all this. I know exactly how it
Mhm.
feels. And you're right, it is kind of a blur because I was gonna try to go in before we did this to see like exactly how many sessions we had together before.
Hundreds.
I was like, I mean, it was a
Hundreds.
lot. You did a lot of work, and but you're not alone in that. I have so many clients who go through and it's not forever, but the fact of the matter is you actually like listened and you didn't like what spirit was showing you sometimes, but like
Mhm.
you did the hard things required. And I still remember when you came to Wisconsin for the shamanic healing retreat, like you said, I didn't want to come, but I knew it was just my ego and I was afraid of what was going to happen if I didn't come because spirit was just like kicking your ass.
So
Was it
many
just
things
emotion?
happened right before and it was just like within the first, like it was like 2 weeks before I was supposed to come to Wisconsin the first time, and things kept coming up, and I was like, dang it. I was just like, it's almost like, okay, I got it. I got the message. I hear it. Like, I'm
Yeah.
coming. And then you led me into the woods and
Oh my god, I
to
did
pick up
literally. I
sticks.
forgot about that. Oh my god. So that was okay. So for everyone listening, when you go to retreat at Golden Light Healing, the first night is fire ceremony. It's open to the public, so we all go to the fire, and then we
Hmm.
clear out our chakras. But we bring offering. So you go. So I was like, Kate, you have to do your offering, so I'll come with you. This is
That was
great.
our first time meeting in person, too.
It was our first time meeting in person. So, but you guys have to remember, I'm really bad about this because this has happened with other clients, especially now that I have an in person place. I spend so much time with you guys on Zoom and I'm in your energy so much for shamanic healings and stuff that it really feels no different to me when I meet you guys. And I am the exact same person, just always. So like it's one of those things that's a disconnect for me. I forget that I haven't met you. So okay, so I'm like, we have to go find your offering. So I it was pitch dark and snowy, right? Wasn't it snowy?
Hmm. It
Okay,
was
so
right before it started snowing. It was
yeah,
like freezing cold, though, because I'm from Texas. So Texan doesn't do cold.
yeah.
Not Wisconsin cold, anyways. And it was
It
like
was
December in Wisconsin.
it was cold, yeah. And then I took her into the dark woods by ourselves and was like, oh, this is where the birch branches are, and I want some of those. And this is where, and like I was showing her, I'm like, oh, this is where the angry badgers live. Don't go back there. Right?
And I was just like,
Is she gonna
Ange is
murder
going
me?
to, and I'm like, Ange, people know that I'm here with you. Like, you can't kill me out here.
But I wasn't. I was just putting together a beautiful woodland
I
bouquet.
know, but I was just one of those things. Like, I suddenly observed the situation because it didn't feel
I
any
know.
different from like how we communicate
I know.
now. And like, but it was just like one of those things. Like, this is my first time meeting you, and we're in the dark woods. Like, you and I just went off by ourselves. Like,
I know.
like no one would have found me.
I know. I know. I'm so naive. Sometimes I forget that stuff's a little weird. But yeah, but it was great. But then we went to the fire, and going to the fire is great, but awful. And like all of it's so. There's actually a fire ceremony tonight I get to go, so I'm excited.
I've actually started doing like fire ceremonies here at home because like we
Yeah.
actually have the space for it and everything. And
Yes.
he started joining me on them, which is
Oh,
really nice too. Because like I said, we're getting triggered left and right. We have a lot going on at any given point. So it's kind of like, okay, like
yeah.
help me in my like come join my practice kind of.
That's so good. I love that. I know. It was like, but like the fact that you guys are together now, it just sounds crazy given how you felt so many times.
We were actually talking about that the other day because we were just kind of like, this kind of happened. Like, we suddenly were like together. Like, it wasn't necessarily a like we didn't segue into it. It wasn't like a gradual thing for us. Like it
Yeah.
was just suddenly like, okay, we're together.
Yeah.
Like, and it was just so it's a little weird too because we're like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like it's just so we're having those moments where we're just like, it just hits us that we're like, oh, we've worked towards this for so long and now we're finally here.
Yeah, what does he say when he talks? Like, I of course know all the work you did in the way of shamanic healing, and you went to Sedona. There was at one point you were basically homeless. Like, you had a lot of faith in your path.
I was
You know?
homeless, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
That,
like,
yeah, like faith was a huge thing. So like with me growing up as religious as I did,
mm,
like small town Texas Bible Belt religion, like it completely changed my definition of faith because like even now when things are coming up, I'm like, okay, it's working out for me, not against me.
yeah,
And so like that's kind of redefined my definition of it. Um, but yeah, so he has told me some of what he's gone through too, and it's really funny, like there's a bit of a telepathy, like that twin flame
yeah,
telepathy. I
yeah,
don't really like those terms anymore either,
yeah,
but he definitely had thoughts and feelings similar to what I did at the same time. And there was definitely an energetic exchange during that time that we were completely no contact.
yeah. Like, what is just? I mean, like, did you ever come clean to tell him like how much it kind of consumed you, or no? I mean,
He's gonna listen to this.
he doesn't need to. He'll never know how bad it was. No, I'm just kidding. But like, was his experience similar or no? From what I can tell, like the masculine energies don't feel it like that. Like it's not this. It's this. They feel the telepathy, but not to that degree.
So from what I understand, because I am speaking for him right now, from what I understand, he had a different set of circumstances he was going through,
Yeah,
like completely different.
yeah,
So, like, a lot of what I experienced and what I went through was different than what he went through. Because whereas I was completely solitary and isolated, he was not.
yeah,
He still had to do life shit. And for me, like, I was completely isolated to where all I could do was heal.
yeah.
He
Yes.
had to do it much more gradually.
Yeah. I know. Like I've the same things happened with me, and that's what's so crazy. And it's like I've had the same thing where I just was stuck alone forever
Hmm.
until I
And
got
it
it. But
sucks.
it does too because then it's like the minute you start to like slip on your practice, everything starts to fall apart too, and then you're like, what the fuck? And then you have to like get back to it. Like you can't.
I'm doing that right now. I'm like, so I was like, okay, everything's falling apart again. I need to just stop and go back to my practice because
I
I'm like,
know.
and put more emphasis on that because I'm like, I'm just dealing with too much to like, and I'm like, okay, I got it. Message received.
I
So, and
know.
then you messaged me like, can you be on the podcast? I was like, and
I thought this was a good one to come back with because it's just a very human. Oh, wow! As I knock over my mic,
you're
it's just
throwing stuff now.
this is what I always do. That's why I get all wired. It's just a very human story because I mean, like I think you and I were in the boat of having like really tough times for around the same times too. Of just
Yeah.
like things were really hard for a while, but you got through them. And you and I both. Okay, that's the other thing I want to talk about. You and I both went through kind of like at one point we were both full on law of attraction, and like I
Hmm.
know at some point my views changed to kind of blend more with shamanism and how that looks at manifestation, but like I don't know,
Yeah.
kind of talk about your evolving beliefs on manifestation and where you're at on that now, I guess, and what that played a part in this coming together, like how that what that looked like.
Yeah, I mean, when I started getting into the spirituality side of it, like where I was getting tarot readings from you and everything, like I was all in on like TikTok manifestation, like
Yeah,
all of that. And looking back on that, I'm like, that was not healthy. That did not help my mental health whatsoever. It put way too much pressure on things.
yeah,
And there is like there's like, tell the universe what you want, tell spirit what you want, ask for their help and everything. But there's also the point where it's like you gotta let it go. Like you gotta let it happen because either it will happen like as you want it to, or it's going to happen better than you expect.
Yeah.
Because there might be issues behind the scenes that you don't see with you getting your manifestation right in that second. And so like there were a lot of like there are a lot of weird things on manifestation TikTok. And I do the only thing about manifestation TikTok that they do get right, in my opinion, is the self-concept work. Like that's
Yeah.
the only thing I really feel that they get right. I don't think law of detachment works. I don't think law of attraction works.
Yeah.
I'm sure it has a part in energy, but there's also the part where like you are your energetic body at the same time.
Yeah.
Like you gotta put out like it's all the same. Like
I always felt like because also they breeze over the self concept part, and that's the biggest part of it. So like, this is where because before I found shamanism, I was listening to like those self concept reprogramming things all night, at night where you hear,
hmm
and like, I would first of all that was stressful because if you're dating anyone, like you couldn't. I would be like, oh, I can't sleep over because I'd have to go home and listen to my self concept things as I
Oh,
slept.
so he
Like,
doesn't realize these exact same headphones are like noise canceling.
yeah,
So like
I
so I
guess.
am listening to a bunch of self-concept affirmations at night
So you still
because
do, yeah.
because like when I wake up, I feel better.
Okay, but
And that's the only reason.
my problem was when I stopped doing it. The minute I stopped doing it, I was not okay again, and I was like, "What the fuck?" So, like, I don't know. For me personally, I just like soul retrievals and soul contract rewrites because it feels more permanent, and I don't know if it really makes like. I always
I
think
think it
about this.
also is whatever works for you at the same
Yes.
time,
Yeah.
because where like some people are very successful with vision birds. Um, well, some people are very successful with vision boards. I'm not.
Yeah.
Those have never worked for me in the slightest, even though I'm a very visual person and artistic and things like that. Those have never worked for me. It's always writing it down
Yeah.
and then like meditating on it or going into I don't want to say a hypnotic state, but like I also look at all the subconscious mind stuff too, which is the
Yeah.
only reason I do the affirmations because I think that that helps rewire your brain a little bit. But I
Yeah.
also think that there's a part to say about like doing journeys and soul retrievals and stuff like that because there is a I don't want to necessarily say generational because not it's just like it's your soul. Like it gets taken with you. And so it's really funny with my family situation being what it is now. I see how it's just cascading down from like my grandmother and then to my mom and then to my sister, all with the same issues at the same stages of life.
Yeah.
And
And
like, so
yeah.
there is a part where spirituality meets science.
No, I agree. And the other thing is, we're in a human body, and we know that your story literally solidifies itself in your brain as far as deepening neural pathways. Like, the more you believe a
hmm
thought, it deepens the neural pathways in your brain. And you get to a certain age where it's more difficult to change those neural pathways. Like, when you're younger, it's easier. So, you being in your 20s, I think also some of this, you're still more flexible than my like 44-year-old brain that's just really
Yeah.
I mean, I think part of it is the earlier you find the work, the earlier you can change your self concepts too, you know, or the
Yeah. Like
more
I feel
easy.
like
It's
science is more of your physical body. And then spirituality is more of your energetic body.
yeah,
And it takes two to tango. Like both have to work in tandem in order for you to see the changes that you want to see.
exactly. Like I have so much trouble with my physical body because I'm so up
Same.
here all the time. Like I just want to be. If I could just like be in meditation all day long, I'd be the happiest girl in the world. But that's not.
Oh, I feel like I'm about to get pushed into that because I'm like, right now I'm working from home and like he goes to work and like I'm in my office like all day from like 7 a.m. to like 5 p.m.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'm hitting a wall and you know me, when I'm hitting a wall, that means something's got to go.
Yeah. I know.
So,
It's always a fucking journey. I just think it's like you're right though. Everyone has to find because I don't vision boards don't really do they I guess I made them this year because everyone was telling me to and I succumb to peer pressure very
peer pressure.
easily. Oh, totally. That's why I keep my circle small cuz
Mm,
I'm like, "Oh, that's what you do? Okay." But writing shit down never works for me. In fact, I've always made fun of people that journal and write that shit. I found an old manifestation journal that I started like 3 years ago and I was
mhm.
mortified to see what I was writing. I tore it up so fast.
Okay, so I have those moments too where I'm mortified at some of the stuff like I've written,
Hmm.
but like that seems to work better for me and
Yeah.
like get it out of my brain and let it go in a weird way
Yeah.
than like seeing pictures of it like all the time. Like, because you know, you're
Yeah.
supposed to see a vision board in order for it to work and like see it multiple times. And I'm like, every time I see it, I'm like, cringe, cringe. Like, it's
Yeah.
better just to write it down, put it in a folder, and then get embarrassed by it later.
I suppose you're right. The vision boards. Well, I have one. Did I tell you the one I did recently? Okay, I did one for New Year's because people told me to, and a bunch of the stuff happened already. And so it was like, oh, okay. So then I jokingly like made the AI art of me and my future husband. Did you see this? And it's on my phone
I did
screensaver.
not.
It's all these weird pictures. And my son is so mad. He goes, first of all, you're not even not fat. And he's like, what is going on? And so I have all these pictures. There's my wedding. It's gonna
That's kind
be
of cute.
yeah,
That's kind of cute. That and those are your colors too.
I know. So I use AI art to make it's pretty psycho. But and like I'm also not
Oh,
dating.
girl. Oh,
I don't
girl.
want to be dating. So like I went back on Bumble for like 2 days and I was like, no, we're not doing this. I want to read books in my spare time and be left alone. And so I don't know why that's on there, but it'll happen because I put it there because I look at it every day now.
Yeah, see, I've started going to like networking events for like just women-owned businesses
Yeah.
because I'm like, I need like, despite me being as young as I am, I'm like, I need that in my life. I need that group in my life because
Yes.
once again, which really cracks me up, once again, like all of my friend group has kind of dissipated. Like it's
Yeah.
just all these friendships have just ended on very sour notes and everything, except for you. You've just stuck for the last 2 years. And there have been some friends that have come back that have kind of helped me because I did get a PTSD diagnosis. So
Yeah.
um, and there's a lot of struggles in my life right now. So now I'm getting a bit more of some support group back, but I'm still looking for like a business support group because I am building a business, you know?
Yeah, I know. I am trying to just like I don't know. It's so funny. I have most of my in person in real life friends like I keep you guys are all like in your 20s even like all my friends because I still mentally because of the PTSD like I feel like I'm only like 24 not 44 because I really kind of started making grown-up decisions for myself only 4 years ago when I started doing the work, you know, like it's really
I
weird.
feel like it would be late 20s, like more my age, because
Yeah.
like at 24, you're still in like a like that's to me that's still like a party phase. Like you're not
Oh
trying to settle down and
yeah, I got
be
over
an
that.
adult yet. Yeah.
I did that right after my divorce though, so yeah, I guess
Party girl
I went through a
or
party
settle down.
phase. No, I went through a party phase right after my divorce. Like, yeah, I and kind of even last year I was still, but now I'm just like I would rather die than go out to a bar because nothing's real. No.
Well, and then also like you're a little more sensitive to energetic exchanges now.
Yeah.
And when you're in a crowd like that, that's everyone's energy just hitting you all the time. Like you
Yeah.
gotta bubble yourself energetically a little bit if you're going to do that kind of stuff.
I'm pretty good at bubbling, but you know what the thing is? Once you learn about how trauma and how it impacts people, and like once you learn about complex or chronic PTSD and like PTSD in general, and you know what those signs look like, you can't unsee it. And then when you go out in the
Mm-hmm.
world and you see how many people in bars or strip clubs or any places like that that are like, I can't I can't shut off the thing that's like, oh no, something awful must have happened to that person for them to be doing this in this moment, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's what's hard
Yeah.
for me. It's not fun anymore when you know
And
that.
yeah, because I'm super observant. I was before I started this journey,
Yeah.
and then as I started going on this journey, it just became so much stronger. And being as observant as I am, like I'm looking at people's behaviors and like their micro expressions and their
Hmm.
reactions. And then you add that like I'm more sensitive to their energetic bodies now that
Yeah.
I'm just like I can't, like it's really hard for me. Like we're going to concerts and stuff like that, but I'm like it has to be certain kinds of concerts, like because otherwise it's just overwhelming for me.
I know. That's what I literally, because I don't know if you know this, but I love Zach Bryan. And
Mm.
when the tickets went on sale, I got one because I was like, they were really expensive. And so, and I had like the lottery. So I just bought one for myself because he's coming to Milwaukee next month.
Yeah.
And it was like $400. And I'm like, I'll just go by myself. But I literally, I just, as it's counting down, even though he's my fucking favorite and he just won a Grammy, like this would be a perfect time to be able to say I saw him. I don't know if I can physically go to that, Kate. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
how high would I have to be able to get through that.
Yeah, like I can't. There are some concerts because like he likes the more like metal and rock concerts,
I
which are a
I can't.
whole different breed of concert versus a country concert or a
Yeah,
pop concert. And like it's a lot.
I know. My
Like,
ex-husband really liked that music too. Well, and there's this whole thing about like, have you heard the whole theory about like music concerts being like ceremony for for the performers to basically like energy vampire the crowd? Have you heard about this?
mm,
I mean,
yes.
that's a thing.
Hmm. Well, it's kind of funny. So that you mentioned that, and this is going to be might be a little controversial for your podcast. You might have to edit it
No,
out.
no, go.
But Toby Keith actually did a concert or headliner concerts in Las Vegas a few months ago. And he said he was feeling great. He was doing so much better or whatever. And then, his stomach cancer took a turn and he died 2 days ago.
Yeah.
So like now that you say that, I'm like, he probably did that concert just to get a little bit more of an energetic boost.
Yeah, and like the Kanye, I think for me was who made it fucking obvious. Like he wasn't even slick about it. But now they're talking about Taylor Swift, which that I think is more controversial for people. But because she's got that new album coming out on April 19th, and I can't remember, I'm gonna fuck it all up. There's something about the Willow remix that the
Hmm.
words literally say that she's literally talking about doing witchcraft in it, and then they showed that in her stage show, which I have never seen because I like her, but I'm not like that big of it. Um, she did like actual like witchcraft ceremony to a song on stage. Like that is ceremony.
Yes, because like that's the thing with music is there is intention behind it. There's intention behind the instruments and the lyrics and all of that. So like I can totally agree with that because like I have seen videos of people like doing ceremonies and stuff with music because as we
Hmm.
all know, like music is also carries intention and sound waves and things like that. So that wouldn't surprise me in the slightest
I know it's wild though
that
because well, and I
it's
was
an
watching this.
Illuminati thing, but
I know it sounds paranoid and insane, but I think it's so fascinating to think about because then they were saying like how all the games she went to, of Travis Kelsey's, he won, and now he's going to the Super Bowl. And like, I mean, whatever. He went to the Super Bowl last year, so how much can you argue? But I was like,
yeah.
what's interesting? The only game she was at that they lost was
Hmm.
here in Green Bay. And there's such a fucking populace of shaman in Green Bay because of Amy that I don't think
Yeah.
exists in other areas. Like, there's so many
Hmm.
fucking shaman here. I was like, is that why he lost? Because the shaman all pay for the
I
play
think
for the Packers.
I think I am the only shaman in this area because there is a fairly big metaphysical store nearby. And like I go in, and of course, if I'm not with him, I'm the chatty one.
Yeah.
So I'm talking to all of the little retail workers and store
Yeah.
workers and everything. And they're like, so like where are you getting this necklace from? Because they have all sorts of stuff and they're
Yeah.
very curious about other practices, which is
Yeah.
very nice
Yeah.
to be able to talk about that, especially being in the Bible Belt.
Yeah.
So talking to them about that, they're like, what's a shaman? What do they do? Like, because there
Yeah.
aren't any that come in and are around this area
Right.
unless they are Native American shamans, and usually they have their own closed off practice and everything.
Yeah.
Having a white girl as a shaman is a little rare down
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. I know. It's well, and that's why there's so many of us up here because of Amy.
Yeah.
But I know. But there's when we the only other time I saw this many is when I went to Sedona and there's just shamanic practitioners everywhere you go. I feel like.
Yes. I mean, that was my first shamanic healing that I ever did.
Yeah.
And it was like years before meeting you. I think it was like 2021.
Yeah.
Actually, that was about a year before you. That was probably what started the whole process. So 2021, and I did a shamanic healing, and it was such a life-changing experience that, like, I think that that's what connected me to you is because you were doing shamanic healings as
Yeah.
well as tarot.
Yeah.
And I was like, that interests me more because I had such a profound experience with my first shamanic healing that I was like, let's do this again because obviously
Yeah.
my life is in shambles.
I mean, that's how I got into it too. Because that first time, that girl at my yoga studio was a shamanic healer, and I didn't really know what it was. And then I wanted to know. It was because of the twin flame thing. I wanted
Hmm.
to know what my past lives were with him because I thought I was losing my mind. And then when she did the healing, I had visions of my own of my past lives, and it was like I literally went into the thing, Kate, like, oh, I don't know if I think past lives are real, but this should be cool. Like,
Hmm.
and then it was like, whoa, okay, that was all fucking real. Like everything I saw made so much sense. The other
Yeah.
thing too is the first time, I don't know if you felt like this, but the first time you went through Whispers on the Wind, shamanic medicine wheel for that first direction, when you
Mhm.
learn how to move energy in people, were you just like, I was like, oh my God, like this is what my body was made for.
I don't know if it was you or Amy who said it. It's like you're not learning it, you're relearning it.
Yeah, you're
And
remembering.
and that's the best I can explain it is because it's not like I didn't know what I was doing. It
Yeah,
was like, okay, do it. You did it.
because that's like all
And
she said.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, it because it wasn't like there were like not really any instructions on how to do it. There
No.
was just like, go do it. And then like I knew exactly what I was doing. I could sense these blockages and everything. And what I love doing is whenever I do have a shamanic client, is asking them, did you feel where I was doing stuff?
Yeah.
Because they always know.
Yeah.
They always can sense where that energy blockage is when I start messing with it,
Yeah.
like, and I start cleaning it up and everything. So it's very interesting to me because it's like there's definitely something to it. It's like one of those things. It's like prayer, like
Yeah.
just from a Christian standpoint, it's prayer. Like you know there's something to prayer because you've experienced thing like unnatural things that
Yeah.
happen with it.
Yeah.
This it was the same kind of concept for me.
Yeah, I remember because we worked in groups of threes that first time, and like I remember two of the girls I was working with. I didn't go first. They worked on me first because I was having a major meltdown that day, and so they were like, "You clearly we need to work on you first because I like couldn't. I was so triggered by everything
Yeah,
that I couldn't people. So they worked on me
I
first,
had
and
that
then
moment too.
yeah, everyone does at the retreat, and then we took turns and I worked on someone we worked on the other girl. So like I was the helper. And so I was watching the other person be the shaman. And I said to her at one point, how do you know what you're doing? Because she was doing all this really cool stuff. And she looked at me and she
Hmm.
goes, I don't know. But and I go, yeah, that's the best way I can describe it. Because you just know what you're doing, but you don't know how you know.
Yeah, because we did three healings, and for the
Yeah.
last one, I didn't really like, I didn't know what my hook was that I wanted healed or anything. Like, I just couldn't think at that point because it was just so like there was so much that was getting like shoved in my brain. And so I didn't even know. And like everyone else had partnered in two, but someone had to leave for an emergency.
Yes.
So like we had a group of three. And I remember like just breathing into Muskuya and everything and like figuring out whatever, laid down, just my brain is empty or whatever. And I can't explain what happened to like what the thoughts were because they weren't really thoughts at the same time. But I just remember like being so stiff and in pain and like bawling, like
Yeah.
almost screaming, bawling. Because these two girls were working on me. One was at my head, one was at my feet. And then Amy actually had to come over and help because there was just so much in like my reproductive area, which for
Mm,
everyone listening, I don't have a reproductive system anymore because I had an unnecessary hysterectomy like before all this happened. Um, so like there's a bunch of issues that come with all of that. And that was just like I was drained. I like slept for hours after that. Like I didn't eat or anything. I was so tired after that one.
yeah. It can take it out of you sometimes, but it's like it feels good because it's like you're drained, but you moved it, right? Like,
Yeah, it's like a weight has lifted off, but it's like you're just tired.
I always tell people it's like if you had a procedure to have a cyst removed, like you'd
Mhm.
feel better because it's out, but you'd still have to heal from it being removed. That's how sometimes you feel after, you know?
Yeah, and I've heard some because like I'm on a lot of shaman forums and stuff like that now that like because it's like there isn't really that connection down here.
Yeah,
But also tattoos are a huge practice as well when it comes into shamanism
yeah,
because you are pretty much calling on your ancestral gifts and talents and bloodline, but you have to have an intention behind it.
yeah,
Um, so I will say once I started getting this tattoo,
yeah.
things started kind of changing. And so I'm very interested to see what happens with that
Yeah,
because I
I
that
haven't
was a
heard a lot about that. Like, tell me more about like what that
so it's because you are it's a very similar to like um
blood magic.
Wiccan pagan like blood magic
Yeah,
or whatever. I don't really agree with that. But there is something on calling on your bloodline and your generational talents and everything.
yeah,
Because essentially you are it's seen as an offering. Like you are giving plasma, blood,
mm,
um, to your ancestors. You are calling on them for help, if that is your intention.
yeah,
So I'm very interested because I didn't have that with any of my other tattoos.
yeah,
I wasn't calling on them specifically for a specific intention. That being said, all of these tattoos I got in that same 2022 year.
yeah, yeah. I remember
And then
that.
I stopped for a year.
Yeah,
And so like 2022 was a major time of healing and just a lot of spiritual work and things like that. 2023 was just kind of like catching my breath
yeah.
a little bit. And
Same.
so I'm very interested because this is the first tattoo since all of these, and I specifically called on my ancestors. That was the intention behind it.
Yeah,
Because I designed this tattoo throughout a full year before I got it.
yeah. I know. I love it.
So I'm very interested to see like what happens. There's been a lot of movement lately, and I've been crying so much.
That's
Like
good
it's
though.
yeah, so I'm like it's at least letting go of something, but I don't know like it's like to the point where I'm like, okay, I gotta sit with it. I gotta do like go look for it because there's something I feel like it's not necessarily what I've been in the past where it's like, oh, I'm hitting a wall necessarily. I feel it like it's like, oh, you're not tall enough to ride this ride yet.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah. That's a good
it's a little bit
analogy.
different now.
I agree. That's how I feel too. Like I know what I need to do, but sometimes we just put off doing it. Like I literally know the
Mhm.
things I need to be focusing on right now, but sometimes I still just scroll my phone aimlessly or download Bumble because I'm a human being and I just get bored and I don't want to do what I need to do. But
Yeah.
eventually And it's quick. It's quick now. It's like a day or two, and then I'm like, okay, enough fucking around. I'm gonna delete
Well,
these.
you know what sticks in my head now? Because after, I think it was like in May, no, it wasn't 2022 yet, but it was 2023's like year tarot reading or
Yeah,
whatever that you did for me. And
yeah,
it turned out super accurate no matter what I did.
yeah.
So now I have that 2024 reading like in the back of my head being like January, totally on point at this point. And I'm
Was it?
like, what? Yeah, what? So I'm like, okay. I'm like, I'm just kind of following the path, and like a hard part for me right now is letting go. That's always been my thing, is like letting go of
Yeah.
my control of the situation.
Yeah, I've gotten really good at that. But to the point that I don't have enough discipline within the things that I do have control over. So like I know
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be moving my body and eating healthier, which I am doing somewhat, but like and like learning, continuing to learn. Okay, well the
Mhm.
other thing, so this is the other big bomb drop. I don't know if I even told you this, but I did you know that most of all of last year I had an attachment? Did I tell you this?
No.
So, okay, this is why I haven't done the podcast and I fucking tanked my own TikTok and walked away from my business for 2023. So, okay, to to go back, I the whole last year I started off the year, my mental health was really bad last winter. Okay. Like
Yeah.
starting in January, I don't know if you remember, but like I was sitting in front of a happy light all the time. I ended up
Yes, I do remember that.
yeah, I mean, I would spend 3 days in bed at least a week crying uncontrollably, and I couldn't work. So I went back to therapy. I got back on meds. I went on Lexapro. I
I
quit
remember
drinking
that.
100% because I've been suicidal since I was 13 mostly. But even after the work and everything, I was just kind of like at my wits' end. And
Mhm.
I remember talking to one of my friends from that I went through the medicine wheel with, and she was like, "Ange, if if you're feeling that way, this was in May of 2023. Let me take a look. Like, there's got to be another layer." And I was like, "There's no more fucking layers." Oh, and I'd gone to see Amy, and she basically said, like, you just gotta.
Get through it. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to stop being a victim. Like, and I know that I do that. That's my core, right?
Hmm.
So I went on Lexapro because I was, and I went back to the EMDR therapy because I was like, I can't live like this. Like I couldn't, because I don't do any divination when I'm not, when I'm not emotionally
Yeah, because it
regulated.
your energy interferes with it
Yeah.
sometimes.
So
Yeah.
if I can't hold space for people and their healing, I don't do it. So I was like unable to work. And then I was sick 2 whole months out of the year. Like it was just like okay,
Hmm.
so I had this really rough year. My mental health was rough. I was having a lot of struggles with my best friends, including like the person formerly known as my twin flame, like trying to get sober all year. And I was probably being way too codependent for him as his best friend instead of like, I don't know. I don't know. It was just a whole fucking my money was fucked. I gave up on when my TikTok got banned right after that, right in May for sexual content. Like I just was like, fuck it. And like I have the backup I was doing a little, but I got that job at the bar.
Yeah.
Like I was living off my investments and just basically, I don't know. So, but I was miserable. And I don't know if, I don't think anyone knew this because I didn't really realize, but I wouldn't let anyone work on me. Nobody
Hmm.
worked on me. I don't, because I don't like, I've never gotten tarot readings. Like, I started doing tarot before I had ever even gotten a reading from anyone else. So,
Yeah.
I really don't, I'm not like, I try to go within for my own answers, especially after going through the medicine wheel, right? So,
Mhm.
um, and I had that falling out with another friend who I had done trades with all the time, over Zoom. And after that
Yeah.
falling out, I really didn't trust anyone because I was like, people are going to take advantage of me. I was all worried, or they're going to tell
Yeah.
me the wrong things, and then they're going to spread rumors about me. And, well, I was all nervous. So, yada, yada, yada. I'm finally miserable enough. When was this? In I was here already, so I think it was December. It might have been January. Or it was if it wasn't if
I
it
think
wasn't
you got to the spa in December, if I'm not
I got
mistaken.
here. I started here in October, but it was when I had my friend Whitney who Whitney Hoovelmans is in the Green Bay area, and she's phenomenal. She's one of my really good friends. You might have met her. I don't think she was at the fire, but I went through the directions with her. And the last direction, when you do your life review, like we did life reviews together, it's a really big deal. So I
Mm.
I knew I could trust her because I know I can trust her, but I didn't trust her at the time, and I didn't trust anyone. But I was like, if
Yeah.
I didn't want to wait to get in with Amy, and I didn't want to risk Amy saying there was nothing wrong with me again, and so I asked Whitney if we could do trades. So she comes here, and Whitney has studied breath work like with
Hmm.
other people, and I hate breath work, but it's probably because I don't like letting go of shit. Anyway, so she comes here to do a shamanic session on me because I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
know what's wrong. And that, so here's what happened. I'm laying on the table. She's having me do this continuous cycle of breath to move all the heavy energy. And then she's like, where is it going? Show me in your body where it's going. And I'm pointing to my belly button. So, like, I'm on the table,
Mm.
you know? And it's like, it's hard. I can feel it. It hurts. And she's like, okay, I've got it. And then I don't know what she's doing, but she's like telling me to keep breathing even harder. She's like, you have to really get every ounce of energy out with your exhale. And so I'm like groaning at this point, like almost
Yeah.
moaning. And then all of a sudden, I felt something come out through my belly button. I felt it all come out through my belly button. My eyes were closed. I had an eye mask on too. And I literally, it felt like I was going to either throw up or pass out. And I just like, and like, then I was literally thinking, am I fucking crazy? Or did that feel like, that's it. And then she goes, okay, it's out. I just took it out. And I was like, oh my gosh, so the heavy energy's out. No, at the end of the session, she's like, so I don't want you to get, I know how you, she's like, but you did have an attachment. I'm like, oh my God, that's what that was. That's what it felt like. I'm like, it felt like I
Hmm.
gave birth to a fucking demon baby out of my belly button. It was like the poltergeist or like that
I
movie
know
where the,
exactly what you mean because it's one of those things like you can talk about it and put like English words to it, but there's a whole nother sense when you feel it.
I know, and I thought it was crazy. And then, so I
Yeah.
felt so, and then I go, well, what was it? And she goes, it doesn't matter. I mean, if you want to go into that, you can, but it's gone. And she was like, last winter, you must have been in a really dark place. She goes, it's an occupational hazard, and I go, that's why I didn't want anyone to work on me. She goes, you always wanted us to work on you. That didn't want you to work on us to work
Yeah.
on you. And I was like, yeah, that's for sure. Cause I felt so different immediately. And like, I'm like, oh my God, my business. Like I need to get back. I need to get back on TikTok more and I need to like grow this. And like, I need to quit working at that bar. Like all this stuff. I was just like, what the fuck? Like, it's like I'd been asleep for a year.
Yeah. And I'm kind of the sense personally that I'm like, okay, there is something that I need to focus on and really just sit with myself again because in the last couple of months, like back in December, I got diagnosed with lupus and a broken back and everything. And it's just there are several other things that happened at that point that like I'm like, okay, we're back on a cycle that I don't want to be back on.
Yeah.
And now I'm getting to a place mentally where I'm like, I started going back to counseling again and everything
Yeah.
because like I'm crying all the time. And
Yeah.
like, I'm like, oh, maybe it's lupus mood swings or whatever, except for it doesn't feel like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like that. So I'm kind of like, oh, I have to sit with it. And like, it's hard. So I understand
Yeah.
where like the people I know they don't but like they're like they adamantly don't want to work on that because it's hard work, it's
Yeah.
rewarding work, but it's hard
Yes.
work to have to sit with yourself and look inwards so intently to like, and I'm in a place now that I'm like I never thought I would be in this space.
Yeah.
I never thought that I would have the majority of things I have now. So like even when I'm like writing my New Year's goal list and manifestation list or whatever, like there's only like two categories that I'm lacking in and everything else has just kind of taken form in a way that I never thought it would. And
Yeah.
it's like, and again, hindsight's 2020. It's the best possible that it could be. But now I'm feeling like it's time to grow a little bit more to get to that next level to to get on that ride.
Yes, I same. Like I think 99% of my life, 95% of my life is exactly how I've always wanted it. In fact, last Monday in my Monday night class, we did like reparenting of our little girl self of ourselves, you know? So I was sitting with like an 8-year-old version of me telling her about my life and like that's kind of what we're all doing. And
Oh, that
she
will make me cry every time.
I
That will make
know
me cry every time.
it helped me so much though because the things she cared about were things I'm all doing. She was like, oh my gosh, you get to like have everything be pink and blue, and I was like, yeah. And she was like, do you have a big bathtub, do you have a big house to yourself where no one can hurt you? And I'm like, yeah. And then she's like, do you get to do art? And I'm like, yeah. And I was talking about like the internet and digital art, and like remember when I was a thing that wasn't. She's like, oh my god, like print shop, because we used to that's what we had in the 80s, Kate, is
Yeah.
this one Apple program called Print Shop to make banners. And like, I was like, yeah, better than that. So, and like, she was like, the other thing too, she did not care that I was fat because she was like, oh my God, you get to eat whatever you want. Because my mom didn't let us eat anything. Like, we were so controlled. She was more excited. She's like, who cares what you look like? You're always going to be beautiful. But getting to eat what you want must feel so nice. And I was like, you know what? It does. Thank you. Like it was just a perceptual shift I needed, you know?
Yeah, I will say, like, I've run into some memories of like my 8-year-old, 9-year-old self that are so uncomfortable because
Yeah.
like there was a huge ice storm or whatever, the South. And it I now know an 8, 9-year-old, and it's just kind of like my mom threw me out in that for 2 days and didn't care where I was.
Oh my God.
Like,
Yeah.
and there was no one to come get me. So I had to walk everywhere with just the clothes on my back and a backpack at 8, 9 years old until my mom would let me come home. And so it's like now I'm starting to get memories because from what I understand, like because I'm in a safe space and now my body
Yeah.
recognizes that I'm no longer in survival mode and I am in a safe space, it's bringing up these memories
Yes.
that are really dark.
I know. So are you doing EMDR? Or like, it sounds like that's the kind of therapy you're doing or
So,
certified.
yeah, that was the kind of therapy that I was doing. I actually stopped seeing that therapist because this last time she did go into how like because I did mention that like I'm on a shamanic path and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
And she was like, you need to be redeemed, and went for like a full
Oh,
45 minutes on it.
no. No.
And again, Bible Belt. So,
Oh, that's
like,
crazy. Yeah.
yeah. And I'm like, that's what I grew up hearing. But, like, it's really funny because childhood friends, like friends that grew up as religious as I did,
Hmm.
that aren't that religion anymore have been actually helping me. So one of my friends, she gave me actual like constructive advice on how to cope with it and deal with it, which is the whole reason I went back to therapy in the first
Yeah.
place because I'm like I need coping mechanisms.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she actually gave me some ideas and like oh, you can do this and this and this and this and this. So that helped like a lot. And then another friend, she is actually supposed to be doing a photo shoot of us for
Yay.
Valentine's, so I'm very excited
Oh,
about that.
that'll be cute.
But she's no longer that religion either, and her family is a lot like my family and like being so integrated in that religion. And she's like, I got tired of the emotional guilt and blackmail.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and so it's someone else who can relate to how I grew up because it's a not many people can relate to how I grew up, and let alone who understand what my mom did to me is and
Yes.
like what my sister was like and like how absent my dad was or anything like that at that time. I now have people that understand that and were
Yeah.
there and witnessed it.
Yeah.
So like I'm like I feel crazy, and suddenly there's this external validation that no, you're not crazy. You really did experience that, and there are some things that you don't even remember still.
Same. Yeah. I know. That's what I learned in EMDR too, and it was just like it breaks you, but then you're able to rebuild better and stronger, you know?
Yeah, and so like and that's also true of like shamanism because your spirit guides, your spirit team, they are helping you break stuff down so
Yeah.
that you can rebuild better.
Yeah.
because I do recognize that there are some things that I've experienced and that I've healed that luckily end with me and my generation. They're not going to be
Yes.
taken into the future for future generations for like my sister's daughter
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
things like that. And like it's like, okay, this is really hard and it sucks, but I'm doing this for a lineage, not
Yeah.
just for me.
Same. Like you're healing it 7 generations forward and back when you heal, so it's so impactful. Okay,
Yeah.
to wrap up my big question, everyone wants to know if there's anyone still listening at this point that is in their in their Delulu land like we like to be, where they're like, I'm gonna manifest this person back. Or even just like the simple, I know I end with up with them, I know they're my twin flame, I have this vision, blah blah blah. Like I guess what's your advice on what's just your advice to, or even if you could give yourself advice 2 years ago, now that you're like living in the end, actually.
Let it go. Because for me, I had such an absolute knowing that it was so delusional at the time. Everyone thought, like anyone who I told, I'm like, this is going to happen. They thought I was absolutely batshit.
Yeah.
Um, I think that it would have happened faster if I had just let it go and worked on myself, but I was too worried about the external than the internal. So, like, my advice would be focus on the internal yourself, your healing, what's coming up for you, what issues you're having, what gives you an emotional reaction, what about, and not why, but what about that gave you an emotional reaction. And
Yeah.
focus on the internals versus your circumstances and what's going on around you because that will change. That's just life. Like it's
Yeah.
gonna change. Like you can't really control change, but you can control yourself and your feelings and what's triggering you.
Yeah. And if you're crying in bed for 1 or more days a week, also seek help because you don't like that. The spiritual journey is not just, yes, crying's good because it moves energy, but it should be for a finite period of time so you can get out in the world and experience it. And I think you and I both
Yeah.
learned that the hard way too, of like, you can't get so spiritual that you're not like going, asking for help is part of the path too.
Yeah, and I feel like spirit will bring you people who are meant to help you at that time. Or
Yeah.
like, and that doesn't necessarily mean like good help, but like
No.
like you can have people like you and me where like you came at a time that I really needed help and you've just been very steadfast and there for like the whole time that I've known you
Yeah.
and just been a very good friend. But I've also had friendships come and go during that like 2 years that I've known you too, because it was either meant to like hold my boundaries or like um help develop some kind of lesson there. So,
Same. Same. I know, and in my case, like my like twin flame person or whatever, I thought like I think I got to the point where I had him in my life and then I was like I don't like you as a person. I don't want
yeah.
you in my life. You're not a positive influence and this is hurting me and no thank you. So like let
I
that
will
go.
say the reality is different than the dream
Yes, it is.
because I'm
Yes.
like there are times I'm like you irritate the shit out of me.
I know. It's like that's why I say to people, be careful what you pray for because you just might
I
get
love the
it.
fuck out of you, but you irritate the hell out of me, man.
I know. I felt that way about my ex-husband. I would say before I knew what manifestation was, like I did that shit because I forced a round peg in a square hole because I just wanted him, right? But there were
Yeah.
days where I was like, why did I fucking fight so hard for this guy? Like literally, I remember like scrubbing his toilet in his bathroom once, being like, why did I argue for this? But it is funny. There's good days
Yeah,
too.
yeah, and it's funny. It's like little things like the therapist that I was seeing before like I stopped seeing her. She was like, "It seems like y'all just have like 20-year-old married couple problems, not like
I love that.
like y'all are spatting, not actually fighting. Like y'all just
Yeah.
have spats." Because like my biggest thing is like he doesn't clean up after himself.
I
He
know.
doesn't put laundry in the hamper. Like, come
But I
on,
love
man.
that. I always say those aren't big problems; those are just people problems, and that can be sorted out. So like that's the good stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and then there's also the point where it's like, as soon as we're done with our work for the day, we're calling each other because we want to talk to each other and
Yeah,
spend more time with each other. Like, if we're going on an errand, it's not like we're just dropping the other one off
yeah,
at the house and then going running there, and like we're
yeah,
going together.
yeah. That's nice.
So it's like it's just the reality is a little bit different because there's like the little nuances. You're thinking of like, oh, dates and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Like, but one of the big things I did was I wrote a list of everything I wanted him to be and do.
yeah.
And then like I just kind of gave it to my spirit team. He checks every one of those boxes. It's just those little things that I didn't put on there
Ah,
that
you have
came
to be
through.
specific. You have to be specific. Yeah, I
Hmm.
know. Oh my gosh, I love it. All right, Lovey. Well, thank you so much for talking with me and giving me
You're
some of your time
welcome.
today. You look gorgeous. You look like not that it matters, but you look like a totally different person. Like you really do. Like everything's just changed. And so
I am trophy wife
you are a
right
trophy
now.
wife now. I know. You're the Texan trophy wife,
I
like in
am the Texan trophy
Oklahoma.
wife.
I
I
know.
don't know. One of them. Texan
I,
trophy wife, I guess.
I love
Southern
this for you.
trophy wife.
I know. I love it. All right, Lovey. We'll take care. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Sounds
Love you.
good.
Bye.
Love you. Bye.